Welcome to the urinary system part 2. We are now going to look at how urine is actually formed. In the formation of urine, there are three processes we're going to look at. The first one is filtration, and then you have reabsorption, and then you have secretion. Now, it's important when you look at it. You're going from the blood. Whoa, this is bad writing. I gotta learn. I got a new toy. To the urine. Oops. What did I do? To the urine. Where's my red pen? Okay. In filtration, you are going from the blood to the urine. In reabsorption, you're going from the urine back into the blood. And secretion, you are then going from the blood again back into the urine to fine tune it. Okay? So the kidney is said to be a good filter. No, the kidney is a horrible filter, but it is a really good reabsorber and a really good at selectively determining what will go into the blood and into the urine. Okay, you need to think of the urine and the blood are interchangeable. If there's something you don't want in the blood, because the body doesn't need it, it goes into the urine. Your urine is a result of the spillover from the blood. So when we look at our tubule, we are thinking of three processes: filtration, reabsorption, and then secretion. First off, the filtration. Let's go to green. Filtration occurs in the glomerulus because of the pressure of the blood pressure from the heart. Everything but blood cells and proteins get pushed out from the blood into the tubule. Okay? Everything. All the water, all the salts, all the good stuff, all the bad stuff. Everything but red blood cells and proteins will leave your blood. Bad filter, but this is called filtration right here. Filtration goes out. Then, after that, the next process is reabsorption. The kidney is a fabulous reabsorber, and 99% of the stuff gets taken from the blood back into from the filtrate back into the blood. Now notice, this blood vessel is not extended here. It's kind of cut off, but realize the blood vessels will then go all over here. Here's your peritubule network. So they're interconnected, or not interconnected, holding each other. When you look at the tubule, everything gets filtered out except blood cells and proteins. Then in the proximal tubule, almost everything, 99% of the stuff, goes from the filtrate to the blood. So it leaves. Now this happens by active transport. Sodium is pumped out. When sodium is pumped, chloride, sodium is positive, so you've created a positive outside. Sodium is pumped, chloride, which is negative, will follow. Water, which will now follow because you've moved the sodium, you will now reabsorb water from the tubule back into the blood. So all sorts of things go back in here. Proteins go, amino acids go back, glucose goes back, all the good stuff. 99% of the stuff is reabsorbed. Please pay attention to the videos. When you look at the loop of the nephron, this one has it, and if you go back to the first page, there is another video, the functions of the kidneys. This goes into more detail on reabsorption. You need to know this detail, so please watch these videos. Okay, now the third process, so one is, the first process is filtration. Almost everything comes out except blood cells and protein. Second is reabsorption. Active transport, your sodium is transported back. Oops, that's some bad writing. Sodium is transported back. Glucose is transported back. Amino acids are transported back. All the good stuff is transported back from the blood, from the urine back into the blood. Now, because you have transported most of the stuff back, osmosis will follow. When you're moving substances, you create a hypertonic solution outside of the kidney, so water will follow. The third process we're needing to look at is tubular secretion, and this occurs in the distal proximal tubule. And secretion is the fine tuning of the salts, and it's also the anything extra. This is where drugs get put out too. So secretion, it was in blue. Secretion occurs right here, secretion, okay? Filtration is in the glomerulus. Reabsorption occurs in the proximal tubule, and secretion and fine tuning is done in the distal tubule. Now, there is water fine tuning that occurs in the loop of Henle, and we'll look at that next. And then the loop of Henle will then go on to the loop of Henle, or the nephron loop as it's called. Okay, just to summarize, when you look at it, this has been stretched out so it's not very proximal. So number one, filtration of the blood into the nephron. Everything leaves but blood cells and proteins. Then you are now reabsorbing it from the filtrate into the blood, and this is where you have sodium being pumped, amino acids, glucose actively transported. Then as a result, water also follows, so everything will go back into the blood. Then secretion is fine tuning at the end, and then we rebalance our water using things such as ADH, antidiuretic hormone. And the balancing of the blood balancing of the water also occurs in the nephron loop. Now, when we look at it, the control of the volume of blood and the water balance is related to blood pressure. There is something called the Juxtaglomerular Apparatus. When you look at the word juxta means next to. So the Juxtaglomerular Apparatus is the apparatus, new toy, is the apparatus that is next to it. Let me find that. There it is. Here is the loop of Henle. The glomerulus. The juxtaglomerular apparatus, juxta means next to, so it is the apparatus next to the glomerulus. Glomerulus is the capillary bed. It will measure, here's the flow, and it will measure the blood pressure in the afferent. Afferent means away. So the blood comes in, gets filtered, and goes away. If the blood pressure is too high, it is detected by that juxtaglomerular apparatus. The juxtaglomerular apparatus will then will send an information, just a second, I'm trying to find that. Juxtaglomerular apparatus will send information, there it is. It is a specialized cells. It will release the renin enzyme. Renin will then go on to release aldosterone, or affect aldosterone. And aldosterone will affect the leakiness of the loop of Henle. If you have a low blood pressure, not enough volume. So what you want to do is a process that will increase blood volume. So if you increase blood volume, you need to increase reabsorption. Okay? You're going to increase reabsorption. Now think of that, and then it's easier to figure out what aldosterone will do. Aldosterone will increase the absorption of water, and that's where the loop of Henle comes into play. Here's my loop of Henle, but it's all messed up. Just a second, I need to figure out how to make this go away. I want my eraser. Just a second. Okay, that wasn't pretty, but I made that all go away and you didn't have to see the pain of it. Okay, what I'm talking about, the juxtaglomerular apparatus will be triggered. The juxtaglomerular apparatus is right in here next to the, there we go. Why is the pen not working now? There we go, right in here. It is next to the afferent artery, so if there is low blood pressure, that means there's low blood volume. What it will do is it will increase, it results in renin being produced. Renin will then go to the posterior pituitary, sending off aldosterone, and aldosterone will affect the leakiness of the tube, of the loop of Henle. When you increase the leakiness, you increase the amount of water that will be absorbed. So you are increasing the leakiness of the loop of Henle, or the nephron loop, and that will mean more water can leave. When more water leaves the nephron, you have decreased urine, but you have increased blood flow or blood volume. So this whole idea is the countercurrent system. It's a little tricky, but basically it sets up a concentration gradient. What you have is the descending loop is impermeable to water, so no water can leave. But the ascending, or the loop going up, is permeable to water, so water can leave. But sodium can be pumped out. If there is the need for water to be moved, sodium will be pumped. And then when it's allowed to be leaky again, water will follow. So anytime you need to move water, you need to move sodium. Sodium moves first, water follows. So you start with pumping out sodium. That will result, when the water is allowed to leave, you've got a greater concentration gradient, and water will leave. So sodium can leave. Aldosterone will affect this leakiness. If water is not allowed to leave, in other words, you don't need the blood volume, this will not be leaky. If you need the blood volume, your aldosterone will cause your loop of Henle up here to be leaky, and water will leave the loop of Henle or leave the nephron and go into the blood, and that results in aldosterone increasing blood flow. When you've increased blood flow, blood volume, you will increase your blood pressure. Okay, that's aldosterone. Antidiuretic hormone also affects it. Just a second, we need to find out. Antidiuretic. If you have a diuretic, the diuretic is something that will cause a large amount of urine to be formed. Diuretic, you pee. Antidiuretic, you don't pee. Things that cause you to pee, caffeine and alcohol, they're diuretics. They cause you to pee. Antidiuretic is when you don't want to pee and you want to keep the body in. If you want to keep the fluid in, you have an antidiuretic, ADH. Finding the information on that. Okay, there are substances listed in your textbook. On table 22.1, here are substances, hormones, that will affect it. What you have is aldosterone. Aldosterone is released by the adrenal cortex. Sorry, I had it coming from the wrong part of the brain. It's antidiuretic that comes from the hypothalamus. Aldosterone comes from the adrenal cortex. When your blood pressure falls, what you end up doing is promoting reabsorption of sodium. Water follows, blood pressure will increase. Then when you look at atrial peptide, atrial has to do with the atrium of the blood. So though atrium will be stretched if blood pressure is too high, it will then excrete sodium. If you excrete sodium, you will then, the sodium moves into the kidney, and the blood or the water will follow, and you will decrease blood volume. Antidiuretic hormone, there it is, ADH. ADH is made in the hypothalamus, released from the pituitary, the posterior. When blood becomes too concentration or blood pressure falls, it will promote water reabsorption, and that's as a result of the